Boom! What's up, everybody? Today we got a big video on the channel. We are going to be replacing the upper and the lower control arms on our 4th gen 4Runner. If you got a 5th gen, if you got a 3rd gen, this video is still going to be helpful. It's going to show you the basic premise of how to change out both your control arms on your 4Runner. So let's get right into it. Here we go. And so with me here today, I got two different control arms. One of them is the upper, one of them is a lower. I'll let you guess which is which. 3, 2, 1... If you guess the SuperPros with the lowers, you are correct. We've got SuperPro double offset lower control arms. These are going to be my replacements on my 4Runner. And then we also got some JBA heavy duty high caster upper control arms. We're going to go through them just a little bit here to kind of explain why I chose these control arms over factory replacements, of course. And if I would recommend them to you based on what I've seen so far with other product reviews, people who run them in the community, and ease of installation at the end of the video, and some preliminary thoughts over the next few months here. And so let's get right into it, guys. So first up, I am going to do the JBAs. Let me put these SuperPros down. And so you've probably seen before, we have a video on this channel where we do talk about the JBAs. We talk about why I prefer them over my SPCs. Because my SPCs are broken, lots of play. Lots of just some minor defects that were kind of said to be solved, but weren't solved. A little bit of frustration there, but we have the JBAs, great warranty, great customer service. So let's go over them really quick. Boom. You're probably like, oh my gosh, those are red. Absolutely they are. The big tagline with JBAs are just like the Ford Model Ts. You can get them in any color you want as long as they're red. With that being said, you can paint them very easily, and in my opinion, even if you don't like the red, it is very well worth it for their easy lube bushings. They have the replaceable ball joints, very well built, and like I said before, guys, the customer service is second to none. So I'm going to put these down here, I'm going to pull the other one out, and let's take a closer look at them, just to go over them a little bit more in depth. Here we go. And so these are the heavy-duty high caster. What that basically means is they come with additional caster right outside the box, and that's going to help move that wheel forward to clear your fenders, to clear your body mount, all that jazz. They feature replaceable ball joints. That is fantastic. They also have these ease lube bushings, which allows you to lubricate them on the truck. Really, really handy, especially if you're wheeling a lot. You don't want to wear out your bushings prematurely. Having the ability to lube them while still in the truck, fantastic. Greasable ball joint, fantastic. The construction looks incredible. And so we need something that's going to last. These JBAs, I'm feeling very confident in. Great reviews. And so, that is the JBAs. Let's show you the SuperPros. Alright, here we go. We got the SuperPros right in front of us. They come in this big box. And inside we have a lower control arm. Yes, it is black. Do not worry. These are pretty much very similar to the stock control arms. Nothing too crazy, of course. You're keeping all your kind of measurements, your design specs within spec. They have a little bit more of an upgraded bushing. I believe these are polyurethane. I will correct myself on that if I'm wrong. Very similar style ball joint. The one difference though, guys, and this is what we're highlighting in this video especially, is they come with a little bit more oversized cam hardware. And so you see one of the things that actually happens on the 4th gen 4Runners in specific is your lower control arm and ball joint may be good, but if you go to get an alignment to change your caster and your camber, these slides, these cam pins actually get seized, and you have to cut them out and you have to get new ones or even cut out your control arm, which is big money. Overall, it was cheaper for me to get brand new lower control arms with upgraded cam hardware than it was to get Toyota stuff and then maybe run into the same problem a year later since I am in Alberta where there's a little bit of rust. And so my decision making was, okay, I get a little bit more caster with these control arms and upgraded cam pins, bolts, whatever you want to call them. No-brainer. All right, guys, so we got a pretty big task on our hands. That is replacing the upper and the lower control arms. In this video, we're going to do the uppers first. I am going to put the JBAs on first. We're going to go ahead and take out our SBCs. Very simple, guys. Only going to be a few bolts. In order to do that, we're going to have to go get the truck first, take the wheel off, and we'll show you where to go from there. The second part of the video, we are going to do lower control arms. The reason we're doing them second is because we might have some issues with the pins and the vehicle being seized, and so we might need to cut them out. So my philosophy is do the easy stuff first. We're going to do the hard stuff after, making sure we have more than enough time the weekend to do that. I have an alignment scheduled Monday morning. And so we're going to bring the truck in then so we have everything ready to go. But we're going to start with the uppers just for the sake of the video. Then we're going to go into the lowers. And so let's get started, guys. This is going to be a big project, but do not worry. You can do this at home. It's not that freaky. Just make sure to get an alignment after. So let's go. All right, guys, so we got the truck up here. We got the big old 35s. These are going to come off. I obviously cracked them while they were on the ground. One thing that I do want to mention, actually, before we get started, make sure your truck is secured on jack stands, not just the jack. I have both sides in the air. Always give it a little shake test to make sure you have stability on your truck. You do not want this rolling over on you. You don't want it falling on you. Chalk your wheels at the back as well. Anyways, let's get to it. We're going to remove this 35. And we're going to get started with the upper control arms. If this is your first time removing control arms, it seems a little daunting. But not to worry, we're going to be able to do this pretty easy together. Let's get that 35 off. Boom. Now let's see what we're working with. Alright guys, so now we're in here. We are going to take this off. I have SBCs, of course. So I am just going to pry this and get it moving. Taking off the ball joint first. If you just have an OEM one, basically what we're going to do, we're going to loosen up the knuckle from the ball joint. You just pop this cotter pin out, and then we're going to have one bolt here, one bolt on the back of this long slide pin. Pulls out that way, and we might have to remove the battery tray just to get a little bit more room. And you also have your little ABS connection right here. So loosen this bolt if you have an aftermarket, this bolt, that bolt, and it's going to come out. I'll show you guys as I go. Alright, so all this is loose. Now we're just going to pull this cotter pin out, so pending it back to where it was, or you can just cut off these pins, up to you. And we're going to pull out that cotter pin, then we're going to loosen this off. And then we are making some good progress here, folks. It should be good. It should pull out. Ka-chow! And we just need to get this casting nut off, and we are through on the ball joint. Now in order to get to that casting nut, we need to remove just this end link. This is just 19. It's going to come out pretty easy. Put that down there. We could punch this out, or we could just hope for the best. Gently punch that out. And my hand is covered in grease. I'm just going to wipe this off because this is getting a little bit obnoxious. Be right back. Alright, now they got that loose. To keep it from swinging, I just put this top nut back on super loosely. This is a 22. And we're just going to try to remove this. Let's see if I can get in here with my impact. If not, we'll just use a wrench. Yeah, nope. Just going to put a cheater on it for now. And there we go, got some movement. So I'm just going to take that off. Alright, now we need to separate that spindle from that ball joint. Pretty much what you want to do is take a hammer and hit this until it comes loose. It might take a while. Yeah, I'm out of breath. I've been hitting it. But yeah, you want to do that, get her loose. Alright, so now I've separated this because I hit it with the sledge. It popped off. I have the nut here just to hold it in place. I'll move the clips on my fender liner, and then you're going to see a little brake like hanger here. It's just a 13 mil. Going to remove that so we can get a 19 millimeter socket with a breaker bar in the back here. 19 millimeter wrench up top, just holding it. We're just going to ease this thing off. Once we do that, it's going to slide out towards the front of the vehicle, and so we'll probably need to remove the battery just to make sure we get enough room to pull her out. Alright, this side has come loose. So just do that with my finger. And I'm just going to remove this, and then I'll show you guys where we're at. Alright, these SBCs are off. All the grease ever in this ball joint that was ever there is now in my hands. So frustrating. But here's how this works. So this is your pin that you're going to be taking out. The side that doesn't move, the bolt head, slides into the shock mount like that. We're going to be using washers with the new JBAs. Move this SBC over here. I'm never going to be using those again. And guys, little secret here. It's already covered in grease. The JBAs are now black, and you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, weren't those just red? They were. I repainted them, and the reason I did that, they clashed a little bit hard with the vibe I got going on now, and as I'm starting to, like, you know, take the truck to shows and try to make things a little bit more color coordinated just out of creativity and stuff, I really wanted to make the red work, but I tried so hard, and it just wasn't quite sitting right. And so I figured, you know what, I'm going to paint them, and show you guys that if you want a really high quality product, you can also customize it. That's part of the nice thing about building a truck, is you don't have to just settle for the way things look. You can change them. Painted these black, really not too hard. Used a basic acrylic black satin paint, prepped them nice. Now we got this. They pop. I'm going to put a nice JBA decal on there because I want people to know what control arms I run and not to run these anymore because they've given me nothing but grief. And so anyways, guys, the way that we're going to install these, they come with washers, and everything is in the instruction manual, which is really nice. We have thin washers, we have thick washers. Thick washers are going to go on the outside. Thin washers go on the inside towards the strut mount. And so, yeah, we're just going to slide these back in, and hopefully the rest is history. So I'm going to go back over the truck, and I'm going to slide these in. I probably won't be able to show you guys because it's just me right now, but I'll show you once I got them in. Totally forgot to include this. They also include some high-performance bushing lubricant. You're going to use just a basic grease on these. I'm going to put the specifications down in below. It's going to be a moly grease, just for high pressure. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to open this, just spread it around in the bushings inside, maybe something on the outside as well, just to make sure everything goes in nice there. And they did include some blue Loctite for the long bolt, and so we might put a tiny bit of that on as we go here too. So forgot to do that. I'm going to do that now. Alright, now comes the fun part. If you were working alone, we got the control arm, we got the bolt, and we have to get the thick bolt on the outside, which I already have, and then the thin bolt on the inside. So what we're going to do, slowly slide this back. Oh, of course, you don't want to find your way. Just slow, there we go. And we're going to feed it in there. Nice. Move that over a little bit, that's okay. Feed that a little bit more, come on. This is where having that second person comes in handy, just to feed the bolt a little bit more. Oh, she's coming. We just gotta line it up. Come on. Oh, we might have got it. Guys, we got it. So we got the first part in. Now remember, thick, thin, thin, thick. And we're just going to slowly work it in. I'm going to turn the camera off just so I can do this without fear of judgment of how bad I am at it. So be right back. All right, so we got everything through. Remember, that is thick, thin, thin, thick. This last thin washer is pretty hard to get on, so what I would recommend is taking a little screwdriver, prying, and then just easing its way in, maybe giving it a little punch, and it will go. Once you do that, put the bolt back. We're going to take a torque wrench, 85 foot-pounds. Of course, torque wrench on that side. Keep the nut from spinning on this side with a 19mm wrench. And we're going to go up. Whew. There we go. That's 85 foot-pounds. This is still going to move. Remember, we lubricated the bushings before we put this on. Really important. Now we're going to move on to the ball joint. All we're going to do here is just all this grease from the SBCs. My goodness. We're going to go straighten it out a little bit, push her in there, start her, and then we're going to put the nut on. But before we do that, we're just going to reconnect our lines back here. We took off this bracket, that's a 13 mil, going to put that back on, and then we're going to just hook up the ABS wire and pinch it in there, and then we're going to start on this nut. I'll be right back. Alright, so now that we got the sway bar back off, we're just going to take a 3/8, and that's going to hold the bottom of this little bolt here to keep it from spinning. If I can get an angle here. There we go. And we are going to take our 22mm wrench, and we're going to slowly start to tighten this, holding the bottom of that at the same time. We're just trying to get past that little nylon piece in the nut here. Otherwise it just catches and spins with it. So once we get past that, we should be able to take off this 3/8 and just whirly-dirly it in. Slowly work our way up, and then we're going to get to here. We're going to torque it to 60 foot-pounds, okay? 64 foot-pounds, 85, 60, 13. And once we do that, we are done. The one thing I want to mention, guys, while it was a little bit hard to get some of these shims in, it's really nice to have shims that fit tight. that is that you don't have that clearance, you don't have that play, because you're not going to get the bushings to wear out prematurely. If you have less play, you have less clearance. And so it's nice that it is so pristine, so precise. JBAs are really good for the accurate measurements on shims, at least I've found. So anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and tighten this and we should be good. Alrighty, guys, so this is all done. I'm going to just probably clean this off a little bit, get some of this grease off from the old SBCs. Oh, my Lanta. Remember, 60 foot-pounds on this nut. 13 on these, 85 up here. That is the golden ticket. Once the truck is on the ground, wheels torqued and everything, we are going to do about 2 to 3 pumps here until we see some of the grease come out, and then 4 to 5 pumps as soon as we see this ball joint blow up a little bit, maybe start leaking a little bit. That's how we know it's full. We're going to use grease that I'm going to have linked in the description below just to make sure we're using the right stuff. So do not forget to lubricate this once it's on the vehicle, or sorry, once it's on the ground. We're going to do the lower control arms next though. Alright, so we got our final step for our JBAs here. We're just going to do the grease the ball joint. And so we are using a lithium complex molybdendium grease. I'm just going to put it on top of the grease nipple here, make sure it's nice and secure. And then I'm going 3 to 4 pumps full. And you should see the ball joint itself start to expand a little bit once you get there. Nice and easy. And then for these top ones, take that off. We're going to go 2 to 3 on these. Once again, you should see it expand out of the bushings once it's starting to full. And there we go. I see some movement. Going to pull that off. And those are full. Oh yeah, nice. We got some grease in there, I'm happy. And so that's all you have to do, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, just make sure it's going in there. Anyways, guys, that is how you grease your JBAs. Alright, now we're going to get started on the lowers, and so all we're going to do is take 19mm on the spindle here. There's 1 bolt there, 1 bolt on the other side of the ball joint, and then get the lower shock mount out. You'll need a wrench on the other side just so that doesn't spin. And we'll take those 3 out and then we'll meet back here. Alright, and so now that you have everything off, these 2 bolts off and this one's loose, we're going to drop these cams. Make sure you mark if you're trying to keep where your current alignment is. Just take a paint pen and mark it across the cam to just the tab here. Otherwise, if you're replacing everything and you're going to get an alignment, you can kind of eyeball it. You can take a picture if you want. I'm replacing everything, and luckily I have Brandon Yoda Surf, for those of you who don't know, on Instagram with me here, so we're just going to go off of his alignment on his truck. So I'm just going to zip these out, 19 here, hold the 19 on the back. They might be seized, maybe not. It's like a treasure hunt, we'll find out. And so going to zip those off and we'll see what happens. Oh. Alright, and so we got the back cams out, and you can kind of see these are corroded. I have no idea how they're coming out on me. Then we got these, we're just going to pry them out. We've hammered out the back, and so theoretically, if we just work this pry bar without bending that cam tab too much, actually, I'm just going to punch it out from the back. Alright, and so this is what it looks like to be extremely lucky. You can see how seized this is, and we're still able to luckily pull it out. And voila, we got this outside, and so it's just going to drop. And the lower is out. Let me zoom back here. Just like that. And so what we're left with, we got, of course, just our mounting points and then cam tabs. Originally, I was just going to weld some pieces of metal onto here. I don't feel like doing that today, so I'm not going to do that today, but I'll do it in the future. So yeah, we're just going to look at the new hardware, probably clean it up, and then put in the new ones. Alright, just a quick comparison here. You can see in the lowers, I honestly have no bushing left. There should be a bushing here if you compare it to the new ones. Got these big blue bushings. Yeah, that ain't good. That's probably a lot of the clunks I've been hearing. So excited to have bushings again. That's going to be a really nice time in my life. But yeah, we're just going to junk these. We have to take off the just the old ball joint here. Just going to take off this castle nut, zip it off, and then loosen everything so we can have the hardware that goes onto the new one here. So it should be pretty straightforward. Oops, sorry. There we go. Taking off this castle nut, sorry if you didn't see that. And just going to take this off so we can have the mounting bracket here to put on the new ball joint. Alright, so now we're just going to get the cotter pin out here. Cardinal sin. And now we just need to get that out of there, hey?
So what I did is...
Alright, then once you got the 24mm cast inlet, all you're going to do, this may already have been done or not, who knows, wink wink, nudge nudge. Take a sledge, 2 pieces of wood, hit that, ka-chow. And so we're just going to install that new piece on the new control arm, and then this one is donezo. Just showing you guys the other side here, which is seized. And so you can kind of see the lower control arm here. It's just this pin that's stuck, and so no matter how hard you hit it, it's stuck on both sides. And so what you do, you have the reciprocating saw, and then we have these Diablo blades. From what I've heard, nothing else can kind of cut through this, and so you got to go pick some up, and you're just going to cut through the pin. I don't have a bushing on this side, so we're hoping if we cut on this side, we can just move it over enough that it's going to drop out with having to cut both sides. If you have more of a bushing, you might have to cut both sides, but we're going to see how this works, and yeah, go from there. Now we're going to be putting the new control arms on. We have just the cast inlet pretty tight, not terribly tight. We're going to torque this to 103 afterwards, just enough that I can rotate so we can get into the knuckle again. So we're going to take the hardware. You have 2 sets of hardwares with the SuperPro. You have a longer bolt for this side, and then you have a shorter one for the front. And so you want to take, obviously, the side that is able to come off, make it so you can get a gun on it, so this way, and then the other side that way, and so you can zip it off on the back there. And so all I'm going to do now is I'm going to lift them up, put them in a little bit. I'm going to coat these in anti-seize just a tiny bit, and then we're going to look at how to align them once we got everything else zipped up a little bit. Okay, so now we got the lower control arms in here. These are pretty tight just to hold it in place. Then we went ahead and we did the 2 bolts here. You can kind of see that go into the lower spindle. Put those back in, zoom them back in, the lower shock bolt, and then we need to torque up the lower ball joint bolt as well. I'd recommend you to find your own torque specs. I don't want to be responsible if I have the wrong torque spec here. There's a million online. Find a factory service manual. Roughly, they're going to be over 50. I'm going to tell you that for free. I think these ones are 103. This one, somewhere between 60 and 80. These are above 100. The lower ball joint one on the SuperPro is 103. Find your torque specs. Don't rely on me for that information. It's your vehicle. Alright guys, so now we got the cam tabs in here. And I've gone ahead and I've put a mark on where my cam tab is. And the reason I want to do that is because this is the center point. This is kind of what we're going to use for the alignment. When you bring it to the shop, the guys are going to use that. 2 things I want to pay attention to here. I use a paint marker every time I torque a bolt. And I just go on the bolt, on the threads, and where it kind of mounts, just to show that I have a torque checked off. And so if it were to back out, I'd know because the paint isn't lining up. Really important to do. Highly recommend getting a paint marker. I'll link some in the description. Back to the alignment tabs. Guys, these front ones are your camber alignment tabs. You want them pretty much neutral. So think 12 o'clock. If you go too much towards your tire, if it's pointed this way, you're going to have a lot of positive camber. This way, a lot of negative camber. Right now, I have mine pretty much at like 11:45, just a little bit more negative. Because I'd rather that for driving to the shop than too much positive, which I had before. Let's go back to the other side now. And so if you look at the other side, this is our caster cam tab. And so you want that pretty much, I have mine for max caster. And so just the way it's set up, if you're over to this side, max caster, the other side is going to be minimum caster. I want as much caster as I can currently because I'm running 35, so I want to make more room. Depending on your tire size, whatever. Usually around 4 degrees of caster is where you end up. I would put mine on the higher side of caster just while I've installed everything before I go to the shop. And so that's how these cam tabs work. If you're wondering how to move them, you kind of want to leave this bolt loose, so the outside bolt loose, and then you're going to take a wrench on the other side and you're going to move the whole assembly like that. Once it's good, tighten it up nice and snug, drop the vehicle so the weight is supported, and then torque these to the torque spec. I'm personally torquing mine to about 140 foot-pounds. I believe that's kind of the range that Toyota's suggesting nowadays. So, yeah, let's get to it. All right, now that the truck's back on the ground, we're going to go ahead and torque up these wheels to 85 foot-pounds each. Star pattern. Alright, so we're back from the shop. It's been about a week now. The truck has been aligned. It is clearing the 35s with a little bit more room. I'm at about 5.5 degrees of caster, which is quite a bit. But we're clearing well and the truck is driving smooth. No more clunks and creaks over bumps and steering. It is the cleanest this truck has ever driven in its life. The upgraded hardware from the lowers and the SuperPros have proved to get my alignment into the spec I wanted it, and I'm confident it's going to stay there without seizing. The JBAs, super easy to install, but with that too, they have those upgraded bushings, and it has felt like a dream to drive. Those easy lube bushings are going to be nice for years to come, for maintenance free, and the customer service behind JBA is just second to none. So overall, guys, I'd say this is my go-to setup for 4th gen 4Runners. If you have seized lowers and you need to replace your uppers because you're doing a lift, JBAs and SuperPros is what I'm personally going to recommend. I've ridden them for a week, and I'm sure I'm going to get tons more years out of them. 2 thumbs up. Anyways, guys, it's getting cold out here, so I'm going to go inside. Catch you next time.